it gets ugly after a while. Yeah.
Unfortunately, no promises on that.
I mean, I think it worked one way or the other, but. Bless you.
Podium is the one they're using. I'm out of here like in 3 sentences, so I'm not going to.
You are in 3 sentences.
Anyway. I have a 4 o'clock live thing. I haven't been here.
Oh, no worries, bro.
I know how that goes.
Yeah, no podium.
Should
No live. You know, put a mic up there.
Okay, all right.
All on your own. As soon as I walked out, security comes out.
Oh, come on.
I'm kidding. We're going there. We were there for like an hour earlier. No, like about half an hour. And we were there going, we can stop and take pictures. Well, county order says you can't take pictures of any building. No. She said, I'll go to 3. You still can't take pictures. You know what? Let's stop.
Call the cops.
Yeah, call the cops. Well, call my boss over there. I said, I ain't gonna call no boss. All it is for 2 freaking cents.
I know. You know, yeah. Demand is so little.
Yeah, the demand is so little. Yeah, for some reason else. Just get the audio around.
Yes.
A couple of days later, I compared to the notifications.
Right. No. I know you did.
I just spoke with them for 1 year. This process.
I don't want to stick my hand in the trunk and stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, no. You're right. So they did do a fantastic job. I think a lot of people.
We have a new newscast. We're doing running how
Oh, tonight.
Yeah. So it's 4 o'clock newscast, 5 o'clock newscast. We're done.
Your day, yes.
I just lost an hour already.
Exactly. No, I know. Rider needs to fast. Yeah. Right. Yeah. you know,
My house.
You know Martin Cullis? You know who he was? Crown TV and
I know who he is.
Yeah. Well, it's a real good
I
friend
did
of
the
mine.
phone inspection. I must have missed a move.
He goes, he only interviewed me. He's a professor, actually.
No.
And he goes,
Right off the
9 hours of talking.
Oh, okay.
And that was his day, right?
They was 9 hours of the same thing.
Go.
Go. It's what we did on
You know, this,
I was surprised that happened.
well, yeah, with a lot. I mean, I just went to Mare Island, all those officers,
Oh, yeah.
all of them,
They, you know,
all of them have yellow paper.
I've done a lot of IT work. Those area doesn't know it. But, they'll fix it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
God bless. Thanks for coming.
Security at the door.
You know, Sam Kirscher was so impressed, so assured.
All I have to do is make sure all this is.
That's what I think. That's what I think. This
Absolutely. Come out and get right there.
Okay, check, testing, test, mic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing channel 1, mic. Okay. Thank you, sir.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. City of Vallejo.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming down today. We're going to start this press conference with a brief statement by our mayor, Osby Davis, and then I'll follow with details.
Thank you and good afternoon. As you already know, we experienced a 6.0 earthquake at approximately 3:20 on Sunday morning. At the time of the earthquake, I immediately contacted our manager, Dan Keene, who had already been contacted by Police Chief Joe Crines. The managers had already given the order at 3:40 a.m. to activate the Emergency Operations Center. And by 4 a.m., the Emergency Operations Center was up and active. I arrived at the Emergency Operations Center at approximately 4:30 a.m. along with the city manager, Dan Keene, and at that time, the majority of the emergency operating team was already there and in place and had taken matters under control. Public Works was there, and at that time, Public Works had already dispatched some personnel to deal with water main breaks and report of gas leaks. Police Chief Crines was on the scene along with Sergeant Hamrick, as well as the Public Works Director, as I indicated, along with Craig Whittam of the City Manager's Office was already there and calling in staff to assist with the situation. Our IT Director, Greg Taylor, was there. A preliminary assessment was immediately made by the Fire Chief, Chief MacArthur, and based upon the information obtained at that time, developed a plan to deal with the contingencies. As daylight came, Chief MacArthur, City Manager Keene, and myself toured our downtown area, Mare Island, and surrounding areas to assess the damage and to see what the situation really was. Within 2 hours of the earthquake, there was a complete emergency operation team in place assessing and dealing with emergencies. I want to thank our Vallejo emergency team for its rapid assessment and response during this difficult time. I thank all of them for a job well done. I think you needed to be there to see how professionally and efficiently they got into what needed to be done and did it without hesitation. I also want to thank Sheriff Farrar for assistance of his department. He is always willing to assist and provided mutual aid and assistance on Sunday, and as I understand, is still providing mutual aid and assistance. I also want to thank the surrounding agencies who also offered and have stood by and offered assistance when and where needed. I'd like to acknowledge that I received calls from Congressman Thompson offering assistance, as well as Assemblywoman Susan Bonilla and Senator Barbara Boxer's office. We thank them for their interest and their willingness to help. I'm also thankful that there were no deaths and no serious injuries. However, there were some property damage in various properties, and as we begin to assess the situation, we find that there's more, and the manager will discuss that momentarily. But I want to thank Public Works for its immediate action, because by its action in dealing with the broken water mains, they prevented a lot of property damage and inconvenience to the public. I also want to thank the public for their calm response and assessment of the situation, and they're working with the staff to make sure that things get taken care of. I want to assure the public that we have a professional emergency operations team, and has done a remarkable job under these circumstances. I am proud of the things that they have done and the rapidity in which they took care of matters. You had to see it to really appreciate it. I mean, everybody showed up and everybody began to work without needing to be prompted. So with that, again, I want to thank them for a job well done, let the public know that you're in good hands, and I'll turn it over to our city manager, Dan Keene, to give you a status of today and what's coming in the future.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I'll begin by reading a statement, and then we will commence with the questions. So at approximately 4 o'clock yesterday morning, the city of Vallejo convened its Emergency Operations Center in response to the earthquake that occurred about 3:20. Our objective initially was to ensure the safety and security of our residents and businesses and visitors. Since the earthquake, we have staffed up police and fire personnel to respond to calls and to protect the public. And we very much appreciate the calm way our community responded to what was a very serious event, probably the most serious event that many of our residents had experienced in their time in the city. The enhanced staffing and the neighborly efforts of our community were successful in helping us identify safety issues very quickly in the 36 hours. We recognize that residents and businesses are continuing to call us with issues as they discover them, particularly this morning as people came back to their business places and recognized something wasn't quite right. We were getting those calls. We are going to continue to work with property owners to support the repair of facilities. That is really our focus now, is to continue the assessment of the damage and then to assist those property owners in getting things repaired. We are a very incredibly strong and resilient community. I think this event illustrates that well, and the efforts during this event really reflect those strengths. Communication has been extremely important throughout this incident. We issued 5 press releases through the day yesterday, and we have communicated through social media, which has also been an effective tool for us. We have established a couple of communication methods going forward for residents and businesses. If they have questions about potential damages to their building, we have a special email address. It is earthquake2014, all one word, at ci.vallejo.ca.us. Or there is a message line, which is 707-651-7144. Calls or emails to those addresses will allow us to very quickly respond to an earthquake-related incident that has been discovered. Today, our efforts are focused on building and property assessment and addressing business needs related to property damage and restoration of fire suppression systems. Our city crews, assisted by other agencies, are providing inspections throughout the week to determine which additional buildings need to be red tagged prohibiting use, yellow tagged for partial use, or green tagged for full use. So as of noon today, we have approximately 10 buildings that have been red tagged for non-use. All of those are commercial. One of them is a mixed-use building, including the post office at 485 Santa Clara Street. We have 34 buildings across the city that have been yellow tagged, meaning that there is something wrong there, but they're allowed for partial use but need to correct a problem. We had a total of 13 water main breaks that were related to the earthquake in the immediate hours after the incident. Water service has been restored to all of the residents in the city, except those who had an internal problem that may have related to damage on their property. But all of our water main breaks have been repaired. We have discovered another 8 water main breaks. However, today we have 5 crews out working on those water main breaks. We had a lot of issues out on Mare Island. As you know, Mare Island is an area that is filled with many historic structures that date back some over 100 years. And we saw a lot of damage initially, primarily water main breaks and water-related issues, fire suppression. There are certain businesses out on Mare Island that are still without water service, but primarily due to the fact that there's some internal damage that occurred to the fire suppression system or the plumbing that needs to be corrected. There were a reported 49 total injuries that were reported to us, 2 of which were resulted in admissions to the hospital. The County of Solano has its own facilities here which have been affected by this incident, and they have a couple of buildings that are currently not in use. Lennar Mare Island, as I mentioned, the city's partner in the management of many of the buildings out on Mare Island, is working very actively to get those businesses out there. As you may or may not know, we have about 100 businesses that have established on Mare Island. in the former base, and there are over 2,200 employees. So it's very important to us that we get those businesses back up and running. And Lennar Mare Island is working with a team of engineers to get that to happen quickly. And then the Vallejo City Unified School District has also been engaged in assessing the condition of their buildings. The city is also pursuing assistance for residents and businesses from its state and federal partner agencies that impacted by the earthquake. At the present time, however, we have no public assistance available, but we do anticipate additional information about weather assistance will be available by Wednesday, and we'll continue to provide updates through our press releases and other social media channels as the week goes on. Tomorrow night, we have a City Council meeting here, and I will be asking the City Council to confirm the emergency proclamation that I signed yesterday, declaring a local emergency in the City of Vallejo. We will continue to issue daily press releases through Friday with an update regarding the status of the community's response to this earthquake, and this will also be available on our Facebook page and through the Communities Next Door network. I want to, on behalf of the city, thank the cities of Benicia, American Canyon, Crockett, Fairfield, Cordelia, Solano County Sheriff, Red Cross, Salvation Army, Medic Ambulance, and the Vallejo Sanitation and Flood Control District for the way in which they collaborated with the city. When we came to the EOC, I arrived about 4:20. The room was staffed. We had all of our staff there. We had the other agencies there, and they were there with us throughout the day, all 15 hours, until we went to level 2 status in the early evening. We are continuing to operate our EOC at level 2. That means that there is somebody there monitoring and continuing to log issues if they come up, and then dispatching staff resources to respond if they come up. That concludes my prepared statement. We'd be happy to respond to questions. We have present here next to me, next to the mayor, Fire Chief Jack MacArthur, and Police Chief Joe Crines. Yes?
Did you, just to clarify, did you say the main post office is Red Tag?
The post office at 485 Santa Clara Street, yes.
Which is the main post office of the city?
It is not the main post office.
It's not the main.
Correct.
Okay. And also is the 8 new water main breaks, is that included in the 13 or an addition?
It was an addition. As we brought the system back up, we had other breaks that were related to the initial breaks.
Did you say 49 total injuries, and can you give some sort of indication on how serious they were and what types?
We don't have a lot of information that was reported to us by the hospitals. It does not sound as if many of them were too serious, and two of them resulted in admissions, so we don't believe they were too serious. Yes, sir.
Earlier this morning, we spoke about the damage estimate.
Yes.
You had it at $5 million.
About 5.2, yes.
Go higher, go lower. Yes.
Well, one of the things we're really focusing on right now, we've had a lot of calls, and we continue to get calls from residents primarily who have discovered damage, chimneys. We have a lot of historic homes in the historic district, and many of those homes with chimneys, brick chimneys, were damaged. And so we're continuing to get those calls. We also are assessing out on Mare Island mostly the occupied buildings. There are unoccupied buildings there that we expect would also reveal some damage. So our preliminary estimate is $5.2 million, but that is very likely to change as we get better information. We have a team of building inspectors and structural engineers, both from within our agency and from outside this agency, with the assistance of the State Office of Emergency Services and the Solano County Emergency Services, and that will assist us in getting the best accurate picture of what the real dollars are likely to be.
Yeah, and if you factor in all of the example, broken windows, the storefront windows over there on Tennessee, do you have a number for the total number of properties impacted by this?
I don't think we have an actual number at this point. That's part of our assessment, is to really tally up everything, and to some of those properties corrected the problem themselves and didn't necessarily contact us, so we don't have that yet. We will have that towards the end of the week. Yes, sir, in the back.
My name is Sam Kershan. I'm a citizen of Vallejo.
I've never been more proud and impressed by the way the city has handled themselves and reached out to its citizens amidst this tragedy. The professionalism and the level of communication couldn't be better, and it's very reassuring to have this happen. I just want to thank you for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch. Yes, ma'am.
For businesses that we don't have earthquake insurance or don't have any sort of insurance coverage to pay for the damage, what kind of resources will be available to them potentially from the city or state?
We don't know at this point, but that's certainly one of the things we're very interested in exploring with our state and potentially federal partners. As the mayor mentioned, we've had contact early here with our congressman, as well as our two state senators' offices, and of course our supervisor and our other and the state OES. So we will be pursuing that angle diligently here once we get past the assessment phase. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about the types of businesses affected and maybe the larger businesses in Vallejo by name that were affected?
That's tough. We had a whole lot of businesses, particularly on Tennessee Street. As you drive out Tennessee Street from Sonoma Boulevard, typical retail establishments with large plate glass windows that shattered in the quake. Out on Mare Island, several businesses, Blue Homes had some damage to their plant, and Close is another tenant there. Alco Metal had some water leaks, but I don't think I could give you a completely comprehensive identification. All of it is, more or less related to the kinds of damage that we saw in other places. So broken glass, water line issues, fire suppression systems that weren't functioning or could not function because we had to turn the water off due to a leak inside, that sort of thing. Yes, sir.
One of the owners of one of the buildings on the 900 block of Tennessee told me that he was told that the West Napa Fault runs directly beneath that block. Does anyone here know if that is in fact the case?
I don't know that. No. I've read the same things that you've read about the West Napa Fault this morning. It was an obscure fault line, so I don't know. Yes, sir.
Were there any reports of looting?
We had minor reports early on that there was possibly some looting. I don't think it was anything that I would say got out of hand. We didn't get any other reports of that. Very sporadic. Yes.
How many people were evacuated because of the damages?
Well, what we know about, we had a building downtown that was a residential structure next to a structure that partially collapsed. And the same owner of those buildings evacuated those individuals, and I think there were 8 of them. And other than that, we had some students out on Mare Island, Toro University students who were renting a house. I believe there were 12 there. So about 20. I don't know of any others. Early on, we thought there might be more, but it turned out to be we were able to stabilize things. And so that's what we know of.
And they haven't been able to come back at this point?
No. Yes, sir.
Fires and gas leaks?
We had no fires due to gas leaks. No, we were very fortunate. We had gas leaks, for sure. We had, in fact, the earliest calls were water heaters, and we had gas leaks, but we did not have any fires. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about your process as far as exactly what happened after the earthquake and where did you meet and what's the focus on right away?
Well, the focus is easy. It's on preserving life safety and making sure that the community's immediate needs of safety are addressed. When the earthquake happened, as you know, as you might imagine, the employees are distributed all over the area, not necessarily in the city of Vallejo. Some, our fire chief here is in the city. But we were immediately on the phone to each other, texting and calling, and it was to the credit of our team, most of them immediately got in their cars and came to our Emergency Operations Center, which is at Fire Station 21 downtown here, and established the fire station, the EOC, as they had been trained. We are a city that we are proud to say has gone through an extensive amount of staff training in the last year. staff training that's provided by the state, but funded by, in part by our Measure B sales tax that we sent them, the City Council appropriated funds. And so we've sent well over 100 of our employees, and it really paid off. Those employees came in and assumed the roles that they had been trained, and we were up and running immediately. We had a few technology issues which were very quickly resolved, and we had volunteers providing food. We had Red Cross coordinating with us on shelter needs, and the process really kind of goes through the day of assessing the current issues and what we were facing at that moment, what were the most critical issues, and then dispatching resources to make sure that we address the most urgent. You might imagine that those water main leaks were among the highest priorities to us for lots of reasons, not just fire suppression, but to prevent further damage. And so that was really the primary focus. And then as the day went on and people began, as the sun came up and people began to discover damage, then it was focusing on assessing, what is a dangerous situation and what is just something that needs to be corrected.
Has anyone used the Red Cross shelter?
To best of my knowledge, nobody used the Red Cross shelters. It was open and available through the day yesterday and then shut down, and I believe they've moved up to Napa.
And how many inspectors and structural engineers do you have working? How much more work do they have to do? What shifts are they working?
Probably, I'm going to ask my city engineer, Jill Mercurio, to come down and ask that specific question. Jill?
Good afternoon. We have approximately 5 building inspectors, 5 engineers, and 4 construction inspectors on site today doing assessments. We expect to get more from the county and from the state in the days to come. They will work until we get certain blocks of what we've deemed to be areas of concern assessed, and all of the buildings in those areas will receive a red, yellow, or green tag indicating the occupancy and use of that structure. We anticipate this will take a week or 2 to finish those up, and they're being prioritized as the calls come in and the initial damage reports are received.
Can you give us an idea of how many blocks? I'm just trying to get a sense of how much work still lies ahead.
We did what are called windshield surveys yesterday and drove around specifically the historic districts in downtown, as well as Mare Island and our commercial districts, to determine what the initial damages were. We're going in and doing more detailed assessments for the rest of this week, and it'll be most of the downtown and the historic districts. There have been some reports up north of 37, so we're doing some sporadic responses to areas up there where people have been requesting inspection services. So I'm expecting a good 1 to 2 weeks more of assessments to occur. My name is Jill Mercurio, Mercurio. I'm the city engineer.
I want to add again that we are, over at Mare Island, they're also doing the same kind of assessment, and in that case, much of that work is being done by an engineering team that Lennar Mare Island has arranged to come on and assist them. So they're also working with us. Mark, yes?
Was there any damage to any city facilities?
There was some damage to city buildings, none too serious, at least that we know of as yet. There was a chimney down on the community center, for example, and of course here in City Hall and over at the police station there was a lot of mostly cosmetic damage, but we have not completed that full assessment. Yes, ma'am.
You called the looting very sporadic and said it didn't get out of hand. Do you have any numbers on how many people may have been arrested for such a crime?
I'll ask Chief Kreins to respond to that.
No one was arrested. We had a few calls of some potential looting, responded to the area, and I think actually chased off a few folks, but there were actually no reported thefts and no actual reported looting. We did get some calls from folks going into buildings, and I think a lot of it had to do with the high visibility and the presence that we had in that particular area, especially in the downtown core and in and around Tennessee Street. And we had literally doubled our staffing by late yesterday, and that staffing remained again today. And I think a lot of that had to do with that issue. But I mean, in addition to that, I can't even begin to tell you how proud we are of the residents of this community, because everybody stepped up and remained calm and stayed out of areas that clearly had problems. And so that never became a significant problem or issue for us in any way.
City Manager, one last time.
Yes.
Do you mind giving me that email address one more time?
Oh, of course.
2014?
So it's 2014, earthquake 2014 at ci.vallejo.ca.us.
And that's any earthquake-related problem?
Right. If a resident or business has a concern that something has happened that is related to the earthquake, we encourage them to use that, or they can call us, and we will dispatch the appropriate person out there to check that out and to advise them on whether it is a safe condition and then also how to take care of that condition. Yes, ma'am?
Talking about the injuries, were most people able to take themselves to the hospital, or was this a mass casualty type incident where ambulances had to come in from out of town and help out?
Oh no, I believe it was the former. It was the former. These were minor injuries. Yes, the gentleman here first.
I wonder if Joe could speak specifically to the museum over on Mare Island, which is red tagged at this point. Can you say exactly why, what the issues are there, and what the chances are that will be able to reopen?
The museum on Mare Island was red tagged yesterday due to reports of structural instability. We have not yet had an assessment done on that building to realize the full implications of that. The intention would be to repair and get that back up and running, but we do not have a date for that yet.
Are there any other buildings that are in immediate danger of collapse, possibly, because they've been red tagged? Any churches or anything?
No, one of the buildings that was more significantly damaged was on Georgia Street, and Georgia Street is cordoned off while the building is being addressed right now. I believe that there's some demolition going on.
Which building was that? That's not the church.
It is not the church, no.
So you don't know anything about the church?
I'm unaware of any significant church damage.
Something to report.
The city manager has something to report.
So as the nature of this event has been, we continue to get information. We just received information that there is a church at the corner of Carolina and Sonoma, which has a very shaky building condition, and we are shutting down Highway 29 in front of that building to address that hazard. It apparently is in such a precarious position that it may fall into the highway, and so we have shut that building down, obviously, and we are addressing that problem right now.
City Manager, we have one question about Red Cross. Are they here? Have they assisted? And if you can tell me how they have, if they have at all.
Red Cross was in the room from the very beginning, and they were with us all day, all the way to the closure of the facility. And they assisted us by providing sheltering for those folks that we expected might need shelter, and did so until we determined that there was no need. And then today I believe they have moved up to Napa, but they stand ready again to assist us if they've made that very clear. If we need help, they're prepared to come back and help.
And to be clear, you feel as though you have everything under control with your current services. You're not looking for volunteers.
We're not looking for volunteers. We have had many generous offers from volunteers as well as from other agencies, and we'll continue to monitor our situation to make sure that if we do need them, we will take advantage of that. But at this point, we are doing all right, other than the additional inspectors. I mean, that's really, as this incident I just reported to you, this is the kind of thing that we want to be on top of as quickly as possible, because we want to make sure that nobody gets injured, nobody gets hurt because of something that was unidentified before and now is a problem.
How does the chief of police tell us
Joseph Kreins, Kreins.
Is there anything else you can tell us about that church? That is the most severely damaged building, it looks like, in the city, and what's
It may be one of the most severely, yes.
the plan going forward with it?
I'm sorry?
What's the plan going forward?
I can't tell you. I don't know myself. We're obviously assessing that right now.
Well, that changes things for me. Where is this church?
Carolina and Sonoma. Carolina and Sonoma.
Thank you.
Could you tell a little bit more about schools? So now, how many schools in the city district?
I don't have a number on the schools. I will tell you that we were in communication with the school district early on. I was talking to the superintendent of schools, and we believe they had virtually no damage. They opened the schools today. We've heard a report today of a small issue at one elementary school, but it seemed to have fared very well. Okay, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you for coming today. Continue to watch for our press releases. We'll be continuing to update you. It might be the one that had lost a bunch of Carolina is right over here. So it lost a bunch of the facade. Yeah, we had fenced off the sidewalks, but there's a bell tower up there. Apparently that bell tower is so loose that it's
So it's the bell tower that might...
the bell tower is the issue, but if
Okay.
it falls into 29,
Yeah, that's
it's pretty
a
narrow.
dangerous thing.
It's pretty dangerous.
I'm the one who talked to Michelle about doing a live interview talk back.
Oh,